What's up, guys? Nick here. I wanted to share something with you. A recent interview I did with one of my students, Reggie. Had the great privilege of sitting down with him. And in this interview, you're going to learn how Reggie has closed over 7 deals so far and how he is using overages to replace his income, his 9 to 5 income, which is pretty awesome. So lots of great takeaways. If you're brand new to the business, you'll learn a lot. Even if you're already in the business, actively doing deals, you'll learn a lot from this. Go ahead and when you're done watching it, post your biggest lessons and takeaways down below in the comments, and hope you enjoy it as much as I did. And I just, again, want to thank Reggie for taking the time out of his day to share his knowledge, share his experience, and congratulate him on all his deals and all his future success. So thanks again, Reggie, and hope you guys enjoy. So without further ado, let us get started.
Yeah, like I said, I really appreciate you taking the time, and that's so cool. I was super happy to see your post about, was that your first deal that you posted about?
No, actually, that was my last deal of 2021. So that was the fifth deal I completed, but that was the one that we worked on. It took maybe 6 months to get it done. Just based off, getting documentations and just building their relationship, building their rapport, and working with the state that I'm in here in Tennessee, and the heir, she was in Ohio, but we were patient and we just worked together. So that was the deal that felt like, wow, it took almost 5 months, but we got it done, and plus we gained the friendship and actually serving and helping that individual. That was very rewarding.
Yeah, tell me. I mean, if you don't mind, tell me more about that deal. So this was it's an estate case. The homeowner passed away. You were working with the heir.
Yeah.
How much was the total overage that you were working on?
The total overage on that deal was $54,956.53. Cool. So after we paid our attorney fees, I actually in the Facebook group, I gave the wrong number. After paying my attorney, all my deals, I work with attorney of mine here in Knoxville, who's a good buddy of mine. But we profited $20,282.61.
Wow.
So that was like the first 5-figure deal that wasn't financial aid that I ever received.
Awesome, man. That's so cool. And what was how did you, because estate cases can be tough. Like, how did you find the heir and what was she skeptical, or what was her response when you reached out?
She was, of course, everyone, when you're reaching out, everyone, just because it was during that period of COVID and just having people calling and having unknown, different zip codes. So it took me a while of, even getting her on the phone, but staying consistent and just calling and texting and just, making sure that I wanted her to know that I was a real person. I wasn't some scam or whatever, because during that period of time, people were getting scammed, I guess. But she, I found her information just by digging through the court records and just researching, going deeper. Once I found that there was one living heir, I reached out to her, and come to find out her husband passed away, and it was just her and her son. So the individual's brother, so it was a brother here in Knoxville who lived on his own. He passed away by himself. And then, so years passed by, and Miss Brenda, she lost her husband maybe 4 years prior. So she was all alone, and she was the only, living heir from that family. Mm-hmm. So once we connected the dots, and I used True People Search, honestly, I find most of my things, if I don't find it off the court documentations, I use True People Search, or just kind of go online. And I found some people on Facebook, but normally I'm sending out mailers. That's my system. I like to sit down and actually physically write out all my things and put it in the mail. And let people know that I'm real and this is a family-based business. So we're doing this, out of our hearts. And, and I realized most of the people that we're serving are maybe Gen Xers, baby boomers.
Yep.
And they like to do things, this way, the old school way,
Yeah.
and talking to people on the phone. And once they see that me and my wife were doing this together, and she was able to see, my kids and see, this background, like, oh, he's actually doing this at his kitchen table.
Yeah.
It made it authentic. So that's how we were able to build that rapport where, I didn't feel like, I had to get the deal done in a week. We just talked her through everything, and she was willing to work with us and trust us. So it was very rewarding because she trusted us. And that was the biggest thing.
Yeah. So. Absolutely, man. Well, and there's so many good points that were mentioned there. Like I love the fact that you're telling them that it's a family-based business, that you're doing it out of your home, because that's real, right? That is the reality. And you use the word authentic. And that's the way to gain the trust of people, is just be yourself. Tell them what's up, tell them, how it is. And so, I just love that fact, because a lot of folks they're worried about like looking like a professional company and looking like, this big organization. And, you don't have to be that. You just be yourself. And if you're working out of your house, that's one of the pros of the business. You can work out of your house. So
right.
I just tell people that. I love that, man. That's way cool. And, it really is like, you said it, you want them to understand that you're serving, from your heart. And that's what I found the best is like, if people can feel that you have their best interest in heart, that is the most important thing that matters when you contact someone.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome, man. So, but that was your 5th deal. I thought that was your first deal. So you've done 5 deals.
Yeah.
Just that one was a $20,000 payday. So when did you start in the business?
Gosh, man, everything happened when the government shut down. That moment, like leading up to the shutdown, there was always something in me that knew I wanted, I needed to produce more for my family. And I started in wholesaling years ago, trying to, catch that wave when everybody was putting up signs and it didn't feel right to me. So I wanted to find a niche. So I started working in probate.
Oh.
So I just started going downtown to the county and just, before then, I had the privilege of working in different nonprofits here in the city. So I had a good relationship with different lawyers and government officials where I can ask questions and they'll tell me, just go down to the courthouse and talk to the judge and just, sit in the back of the courthouse and he'll let you, just listen. So my first strategy was trying to get properties to wholesale through probate and build a relationship with the judge and just being a student. And I was doing that and, in those wholesaling deals, I was putting in a lot of work and taking more time away from my family where I was like, no, I'm going backwards.
Yeah.
And then I just kept searching and I came across, I actually saw you first, your YouTube channel, but I chose to go with a different, there's this another program who was teaching Overage at the time. And I invested in that because that was the first thing, scraping up the money to actually invest in yourself when you're working, jobs that are, little, that's not paying you enough where you are like, I know your story. I'm pretty sure most people who come into business have that same story where you have to invest in yourself and just scraping up the funds to do that. So once I invested in the first program and it was pretty, it was basic. It didn't actually teach the foreclosure side. It only talked about the tax side of it, but that was enough just to get me started.
Yeah.
And got started doing that, and I was able to close my first deal using that program. And their first deal, it was 19,000. This was actually May of 2021. So
Okay.
I guess when I first started the overage business, it was just researching, figuring out, I guess the hardest part for me was I wanted to master my city first, my county, just learn the laws of my state before I even thought about doing anything other outside the state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
So just during that period of investing in myself and self-teaching and using the free information that I can gather, through your YouTube channel and using that other software the other program I invested in. My first deal came in May, and that was for 19,000. And after paying lawyer fees, we were able to profit 5,000. Nice. So once I made that first moment and had that, that confidence boost, like, wow, I can actually do this. And my wife, she's a notary for the state of Tennessee now, because, so she has her teeth in it. And we did that together as a family, and it just kind of strengthened us and just made us like, wow, we can actually do this. So it was just their moment of belief. Yeah. So after we were able to help their first family, they were extremely patient with us because they saw us working together, and we were working with them. So it was just, it was a lot of funny moments because they were learning with us, and they just allowed us to kind of use them as guinea pigs. They didn't care. Again, it was like that baby boomer generation. So Mr. Hall, he was in the 70s, and he was just thankful that we were able to give him closure on his mother's home, and they didn't know about this. And we were able to come like a white knight and save the day. Yeah. And bring us some fun. So that was, another little rush. So, but then after that, we just, again, doing maybe 2-3 hours a day, sometimes, taking, maybe 3 weeks off without doing anything because you're just in the rat race, you get tired with kids. But yeah, so that was my first deal in May. It was May 14th, 2021, after starting my investing in 2020 during the government shutdown. So there was a period of just learning and not doing, not receiving any funds, so where I just had to stay consistent. So but I'm an extremely patient person, so it wasn't, and then that's why I like this business too, because it's not going to happen quick. You actually have to, do the work. And it's just not going to be a quick deal where you get paid the next week. But it's more rewarding because, again, I like to write things down, and I like to go to the court. It just feels better just to write it down and visualize it and put it in the mail, then give them a call. And, I don't know. So I like the method that I'm doing now. Yeah. But the goal is to, now I'm going into 2022. I want to add one more state. I have family that's staying in Georgia. Then once I invested in your program, once I made that second commitment after getting this first deal, investing in myself is something else that you teach us. So I closed that first deal, then I just knew I needed to learn foreclosures, because during that period, the news just kept having friends and family who's losing their homes. Just the fear of losing their home is like, okay, I need to learn it so I can be able to help them just in case. Yeah. But helping other people. So, but learning you and just what you teach us, it's like, wow, this is, like you just a blessing, because you're not, another thing you teach is about having an abundant versus scarcity mindset, and, breaking away from, being afraid to let people know what I do, because I think they're going to come in and speak behind me and take my deals, and just losing that, that fear aspect of it, so I can be able to grow more. Because my first year, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm sorry.
No, you're perfect, man. This is perfect. Good.
Yeah, so you guys. So like our first year, I guess, full year in 2021, we collected over $120,000 like total in overage. Yep. But me and my family, we was able to profit $33,819. Wow. So having that extra, that pretty much was on pace. I mean, that 33,000 from this business, almost matched what I was making, for this, the company that I love to work with, I love to represent, but giving them 40 hours a week. And I was doing this maybe 3 hours a day, even taking some time off, just being lazy or, being stagnant, how it is, I guess, in the beginning. You know, still,
Yeah.
yeah, ebbs and flows, but I still like, wow, this 32,000, it's almost, you know, close to the 40,000 I made working 40 hours a week. And it's like, what am I doing? I need to, you know, give them less time and give more focus to this. Because in the first quarter of 2022, you know, I'm already at, you know, I haven't received them yet. You know, the funds are in the court, and everything's at the courthouse being processed. We're waiting to get our motion a bit, you know, in front of the judge, but I'm already at 15,000 off of 2 deals in the first quarter.
Wow.
So it's like, wow. So I want to be able to give this more time, and again, learning the laws in Georgia, so I can be able to, you know, surpass the 33,000 I made last year and be able to do this full time. But that's what I want to do now, because I can coach my kids, I can be with my family, I can be with my wife, be home, you know, cook dinner and tuck the kids to bed, because I'm working nights. You know, leading a really good group, but I'd rather be with my family instead of give 40 hours and overtime to this company.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, man. That makes total sense. It's, you know, if you can, I think that's one of the great things about the business is, you know, maybe you don't, like, you're probably not going to make $1 million in the overages. Like, I've never made $1 million in overages, but I've made, you know, 6 figures. But the point is, like, if you can, even if you can make the same amount that you make now, but in half the time, or, you know, in your case, like, I don't know, 75% less, and
Right,
you know, whatever it is, 3 hours a day versus 40 hours a week. So you're looking at, yeah, so that would be 15 hours a week if you're working 5 days a week versus 40. So yeah, that's like, I don't know. I'm not good at math, but
me either, man. But I know what you're saying.
you're making just as much working 15 hours as you are working 40. So I think that's a good trade-off. So
It is, yes, sir. It is. It is.
that's awesome, man. Do your kids, you've got 3 kids,
Yes.
10, 7, and 3, I think.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Do your kids help at all? Like, does your 10-year-old help, or?
Yeah, like she likes to, you know, we, you know, started our LLC, so she loves to put our little, like working, anytime we do a mailer, she puts the stamps on for me, and she puts the labels on, and, you know, she'll sit down, and she remembers during the wholesaling period where, you know, actually looking at property. So she wants me to look at the house that we're going to try to help. So she, you know, so she feels involved, and my son, he's the same way. So they all see us working together, and they want to be a part of it. And it's just instilling, you know, like, we can actually, you know, do this as a family for the next 30 and 40 years. You know, this is something we can build where they can take over it, and they can have that freedom, you know, have that sovereignty, knowing that, you know, they can try things, and if they're not successful, they have this to lean on. And that's the biggest thing. I just want my kids to see that, you know, they were a part of the beginning. You know, they actually was there during COVID when daddy said we're going to start a business.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, just the fact that you use that time, you know, it was a scary time. Like, I felt a lot of fear. I was just like, I didn't know what was going to happen with the overage business. I was like, okay, we need to pivot, and we need to start looking at all the old cases. And, you know, fortunately, there is so much out there that business didn't slow down, but it was still scary. There's still always that unknown. But I just, like, you know, much respect to you for, you know, using that time to not live in fear, but to take it as an opportunity to start something new, and to produce, and to be of service to others. So that's awesome, man. You're setting a great example for you.
I appreciate that. No, because it was real, because, you know, like, the company I worked for took care of us during the whole period. You know, they were able to, you know, continue to pay us our 40 hours.
Wow.
You know, and everything was good, but I just knew that I never want to be in that position again, where just the thought of not having complete control over that, you know, my life. So I knew something had to happen. And, you know, again, like, there's different strategies in real estate investing, or, you know, doing the wholesaling was my first initial But again, like this feels more, I don't know, I like this better because it just satisfies my heart that I'm truly put in the work. And by researching this, and sometimes, you already know you've been doing this for years, you can spend a lot of time on one case just researching and, not get a hold of somebody, then 5 months later, you go back to that same case and call, and somebody pick up the phone this time, so that's a good feeling. Then, just every case I've had so far, like the families were appreciative, then hearing the stories about how, that happened, like how they lost the house, or reconnecting siblings who haven't talked to each other since mom or dad died. And this money just kind of just brings them back together so they can, I don't know, it's been every moment of this, all the 7 deals all together that I've done, has just been a blessing to me and to those people. So
Yeah.
I haven't had any bad experience.
That's awesome.
Mm.
So you've completed 5 and you've got 2 pending right now.
Yes.
One thing I wanted to ask, you mentioned like with that first deal, you were able to bring closure to that gentleman from his mom's house. Do you feel that when you send someone their check or whatever, do you feel like it's more than just money for them in a lot of cases? Like you're actually giving them something intangible. I don't know if that question makes sense or not.
Oh yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Yeah, man, it was because I like the first deal. There was a great thing about it because like my wife, she notarized all the paperwork, and we sat down with the family and at the kitchen table when we were showing them all the documentations. So once my attorney, got their first check, we celebrated, and he's like, do you want me to mail it? I was like, no, I got to go over there and hand this to him. So when we went over there and we just sat down and I gave him that check, and he just looked at me and he started smiling, and he was like, my family, because that was my first deal in the, I guess in the last program that I invested in, that it initially taught me about the business. Their fee, their percentage was a little bit high, but I was just going just based off what I knew at the time. And he's like, my family didn't like the split. It was a 60-40 split.
Yeah.
And it's like, like the family, my brothers and sisters was like, that seems a little high, but he's like, I don't care. Reggie just, came in and let us know about this. We had no idea what was going on. And I just believed in a young man and his family. Once he said that, they kind of let me know that, okay, 40, I guess depending on, or now that I'm at deal 7, I'm between 30%, 20%, or everything's negotiable.
Yep.
So, but just knowing 40 on certain deals I can do, on the deals like this, maybe, start at 30 and work the way down to 20. But just, having that moment where he just looked at me and gave me that approval, and just, was able to put mom to rest. And they didn't need the money, the family was well off, so they were going to invest the money into a grandkid or do something at the park, like, invest the money in a memorial for their mom at her favorite park. It was just something like that. So yeah. So it was more than the money. They can continue to let her live forever. Her name was Miss Hall. So, and she was a beautiful woman, just sitting down talking to them about their mom, and the brothers and sisters, they're laughing about stories and sharing with me and my wife about stories about their mom. So that was, their first experience was like that. So of course that, changed my life, because it was more than just me even getting, I think we made, off that deal, we made $5,000. So it wasn't even about the 5,000, we needed it, we're, just regular, middle, lower class, middle American family at the moment. So that helped us out a lot, but just, there was more rewarding just to be in this. He started off as a stranger because it was a cold call. It wasn't a cold call because we were able to send out our mailers and stuff, but making that first initial call and speaking to somebody for the first time about a business that I didn't know everything about, it made sense in my head, but telling somebody out loud what it is, and having scarcity mindset, knowing like they really don't need me, but they trust me. So we're going to get this done. So it was just a win-win, man. It was a good feeling.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so cool, man. And you're right too. Like it's a service-based business, right? And so in any service-based business, there's always a chance that someone will do it themselves. There's always a percentage of folks that, you know, are do-it-yourselfers. I draw this comparison. You know, our business is a lot like, you know, changing the oil in your car. Any of us can change the oil in our car. We can go to YouTube, watch a 10-minute video, go to the parts store, buy the oil, change it, boom, you know, we're done. But most of us, you know, I think what do we usually do? We take it down to the Jiffy Lube or the Grease Monkey or whatever it is, and we pay someone to do it for us. Right. Same with our business. You know, we educate folks, and then they always have the decision to either let us provide the service for them, or they can do it themselves. I have found that most people would rather have someone like us do it for them.
Yeah, I agree. Likewise. Yes, sir. So, and that's why, I guess because I always, you know, I don't really know how I was introduced to it, the business in general, but I think just going on, you know, of course, on YouTube, I think I would say most people probably first saw you on YouTube. Yeah. Especially if the algorithm picks up that you into, you know, I guess just this, you know, wholesaling or real estate investing. And I don't even think you were doing ads at the time or, you know, doing any posts or anything. But the other program that I invested in, like I said earlier, it just gave me a little information just to get started. But then once, you know, I was always looking at you and just hearing your testimonies online, and just, you know, even those little, it was, you know, just all your, like, I just followed you and I kept listening to all your videos to the point where I was able to, you know, close my first deal and then reinvest into your program. And once we did that, and my wife was able to see, you know, like, wow, this is like, you know, you're so thorough with it, and you're so helpful, and you're so kind, because you really don't have to share the information with us. As you know, it's like you giving us the keys to change our life. And after seeing that and just studying it and then doing your program, you know, that's when I kind of like, I can do this. Like, I want to do this. And again, I would rather work 40 hours here at home and be with my kids for, you know, I mean, I got a 10-year-old playing soccer, got a 7-year-old, we started co-pitch, a 3-year-old in gymnastics, and I want to be able to, you know, fund those and be the coach and not miss a moment because I have to go to work. And again, I love the company that I'm with, but, you know, I'm just at the point at the age of 36 where family is more important, and making memories with them is more important than anything else. But I know as a father, I want to provide a lifestyle for them and make memories where, and have something with them, you know, 40 years from now that they can take over, that we started during COVID. I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
That's awesome, man. I love that you have that vision, because that's super important. Because you know what you want. And so now you can actually see a path that can get you what you want. And it also will help you, you know, it's really important to have whatever that goal is, whatever success is for you. Like success is not just having a bunch of money. Success is whatever you define it as. And if success is being able to work 40 hours at home so that you can be with your kids, and that's success. You know, success is just dependent on the individual. And I think the overages is just, it's a path, right? It's a path to help you get whatever you define as success. Right. And I relate a lot to your vision too, because I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, so 2 boys right now, and they grow up so fast, man. So like fast, it's like, I don't know. It's kind of scary in a sense, because I'm like, how is my 3-year-old already 3? Like I remember like yesterday he was just an infant, but he's 3 now, and I'm just like, spending time with them is most important to me as well. So I share your vision as well. And it's interesting too, like when I do these interviews with folks, a lot of my really successful students, they do make it a family affair. Like they'll bring in their kids or they'll bring in their spouse, or, you know, and I actually love that, because it's just cool to be able to, like, I never anticipated that might be a thing where it's that overages could bring families together doing the business. So I appreciate you sharing that with us, because
Thank you. Yeah, man, no, that's powerful. And again, like just like I told you earlier, just my wife and I were going on, 21 years of friendship. Started off as good friends in middle school who were competing to try to get on the honor society, and falling in love in sophomore year to her writing down. Well, the plan was 2 kids. We wanted a boy, girl, but with 3. But just knowing, we talked about these moments all our life, and again, just knowing now that I found something that can be able to let us live more abundantly. Yeah. Where at the same time, I'm not sacrificing time away from the family. Where if I, again, like I've mentioned, now that I feel I have a good base here in my county, and I know how to skip trace now, and know when the court's doing their things and who I can talk to directly. And even that's another thing too. That's why I love just learning my state first and working in my county first, because I had to go down to the county and I had to build those relationships with the gatekeepers. And once those people knew me and they knew I was coming in, just always having a positive attitude, and just, bringing some M&Ms to the lady who I know like M&Ms, the small talking, and then working in the community, being someone that the community invested in and recognized me, because I served these different nonprofits and working for the city. So it was just one of those, it was just organic, where I just had people who, well, hey, Reggie, it's good to see you. Or here's the list that you wanted, or there's the documentation that you requested, the deed, with no pushback or anything. Wow. And it's just, having conversations, but going down there and actually doing it. So now when I'm on the phone and I'm calling the different counties, because now, like I said, I want to start working where my extended family lives in Georgia and in California and Texas. But, I just want to start in Georgia first, so I can, again, because Georgia laws are similar to Tennessee. So there's a little different things than now having more access to your program, and knowing, that, I have a lawyer in Georgia when the time comes. Oh, yeah. Because that's the biggest thing. And I don't, I guess some of your students may have success doing it on their own without using an attorney. But when I first started this, and I think I was just listening to you, one of your videos, and it just made sense to me that I'm always going to use an attorney, so I can be able just to let it be and focus on the next one. Yep. So now that I'm, again, fighting for sovereignty and knowing where I want to be, so I thank you for making your program available to us and everything that you're teaching. So really helping change lives, and if you follow it and you do the work. Because then that's another thing, I'm rambling, I feel like, but it's about doing the work. Because when I first got that first victory, when I was like, yes, I can do this, I celebrated it, and it took me maybe, that was in March, so probably August before I got my next deal. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, this is kind of hard, because the money's not consistent. Yeah. But you got to stay with it, because the deal, my second deal that I got came from me doing stuff during COVID, during that period in 2020. Yep. So it was almost like a 8-month window from the initial letter I sent in the mail to closing my second deal. And I guess that was probably August of 2021. Then it kind of started flowing. I ended the year with like 4 deals, like back to back to back to back. Yeah. So now I'm starting to, 2022 off with knowing that I got, these things in motion, but I won't see those funds until, there's no telling, 3 to 1 year, maybe 3 months to a year. you don't know.
You don't.
So, just got to keep moving.
I mean, that's a great point too. Like the results you're going to see 4, 5, 6 months from now are based on what you do today. And so, you know, it's really interesting. You have that little lag, you know, you had your first deal and then your second one didn't come till maybe 5 or whatever you said later. Yeah. And I mean, it's probably because you took a break.
It was. I was chilling, Nick. I got caught back in that, you know, hey, you know, I'm you know, doing good at my company job, and I got this little side hustle that makes, you know, I made an extra $5,000, so I can, you know, I can do nothing for, you know, 4 weeks. The next thing you know, that 4 weeks turns into, it's just procrastination, man. And it wasn't facing my fears, because I think everybody, like the video you just released about cold calling and just getting on the phones. I mean, that's how every deal that I got, it was just making probably 40 calls in a row, just sitting there and just dialing, just having a day where I was like, I'm not going to do any research. I built this database. I just got to call. Yep. And you just sit there and call. And, you know, sometimes it's very easy. It's like, you know what, I'll do it tomorrow. And tomorrow turns into 3 weeks and you haven't done anything in the business. Or there's been times where I built so much, you know, I did so much research and building my database where I just have so many leads that I'm not even calling anymore. And it's like, wow, I didn't take any action because I was, you know, I was either afraid or I was fine with just being, you know, in the current state I was. It's easy to not move. But every deal that I got pretty much came from a day of just 30 plus calls back to back to back, nonstop. Or people contacting me. Those are the best ones when I've done my mailing campaign. Yep. And I can tell people looking at, you know, checking me out on my Facebook or on my website, then I get the voicemail or the phone call, and it's like, yes, those are ones that just flow so simple, because once they contact you, you have their interest, and it just gave me more confidence. And just reading your script, like to this day, you know, I got my script right here. It's at the table right next to me. And I do that for every voicemail, for every text message, or for any time somebody's on the call. I just got that script. And now that I'm moving, you know, into different states, and I plan on using, you know, your model and doing your JV partnership and using your stuff, now I can really just read your script verbatim without even adjusting my stuff. So that's the plan moving in 2022 now. So I want to do a little bit more. So I got a good baseline set. And again, it was just proving and showing my wife and myself that we can do this. Yep. You know, we did it, you know, so let's kind of pick it up. So it's good. Awesome. Yeah.
You've gotten through the hardest part. That first deal is always usually the toughest one, because you don't have I mean, you have the faith that it's real, but you don't know yet. It's not like knowledge yet. But now you've got the knowledge. Now you know it's real, and you've gotten through that first hurdle of waiting for the first check. And I mean, now that you've got multiple deals under wraps, it's you have the skill set now, and you will always have that skill set. No one can take that skill set from you. And so, you know, now you know exactly what needs to be done. And I think you are at a good point now, as long as you can maintain your systems, you know, in your state now. I think you are at a good point where you can look into another one, and, you know, like Georgia, for example. And it's exciting, man. It's really
exciting. It is, man. It's very exciting, because that's another thing too. Just like all of my deals came from, again, that's why I fell in love with it, because out of my 7 deals, there one is a foreclosure. Okay. And so everything else was like tax sales. Nice. And in those tax sales, you know, like some of this stuff, you know, I'm in a state where Tennessee, they don't, I have a hard time saying, or the government, or like the county sends the money to the state, but the state will always keep the funds. They don't. Is ES CHE?
Yep.
SG.
Yep.
Thank you. She. All right. So they, will keep the funds. So most of my cases, again, are families who lost a home maybe 10 plus years ago. So this like old stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like something like my big deal. There was that family. She lost. I mean, the brother who passed away, he lost that property in maybe 2011.
Oh, wow.
Right. So it was just like, me bringing up stuff from the past. And she was like, yeah, I think I remember that. I remember him always doing something where he always got in trouble with the state for not, I guess he was one of those people who let it go to, like, let the taxes get off, then he'll pay it at the last moment.
Yeah.
And so he had a pattern of doing that. And then when he passed away, that's when it went. And so I always remember him doing that. But then she didn't know that he passed away until I called to let her know that the funds were available. So most of my deals have been old cases.
Okay.
And just, reaching out to the families and letting them know. So, and I will say this too, there's been deals where I've told people the information I never heard back from them. So you do, again, that's going with that, breaking that scarcity mindset, and just living more abundantly and just not being afraid. I'm here to really help you. You can do it on your own, but just call me back if you need some help. Like, I'm always available. Yeah. So there's been, times where I've probably been burnt, but I haven't even checked to see if they claim the funds themselves. So there's been 2 times where I called back, months later, and it was like, well, yeah, it's taken care of. We already done it. And it's like, I'm fine with that. And there's been times where there's when someone else who's working hard like me, who already contacted the family and maybe negotiated a different percentage of the deal. Like, this happened to me probably 2 times in Shelby County. So I'm originally from Memphis, but I live here in East Tennessee.
Okay.
So there are some people, I guess, back home or people in your program that's working in Shelby County who I've lost deals on, which is perfectly fine as long as the ultimate goal is, with me being from my state and learning my state first, I just wanted to make sure that I was being an asset to my community. And that's by, working with the houses that I see every day and just researching to see, who lost their home to a tax sale or a foreclosure and seeing if I can help them. And, I haven't met anyone yet that I personally know that needed my service. But again, the people who I met in my county, I gained a friend and they know my family. And they're, we haven't updated my website yet with our testimonies, but, everybody wrote us a nice little thank you. And we have a business philosophy where we wanted to send, holiday Christmas cards to everyone that we did a deal with. And just check in with them every year, just, send a happy birthday, because we have the driver's license. So now it's just, just sending them, thank you or happy birthdays, or showing them pictures of the kids, because they were around, they were with us in those homes.
Wow, so, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And I love your abundance mindset as well, because I mean, the bottom line is, guys, like, if you're in business long enough, someone's going to go around you, or there's going to be competition. Like, there's competition in any business, and that's not a bad thing. That's actually a sign that the business works for multiple people. And so if it works for multiple people, it can work for you as well, which clearly for you, Reggie, it is working. So
it's working.
That's so cool. So, and I just love that you brought that up as well, because that's all real stuff. I mean, it will happen if you're in the business long enough. Someone will choose not to use your services, or, you may lose a deal to a competitor. Part of the game. It's part of the game. And everyone should take away your example. You don't let it bother you, you just move on to the next one. So that's the way to do it, man.
Yeah, man. Well, I definitely look forward to, thank you for, again, all your content, man. Like, it definitely helped take us to the next level. And again, making that first commitment, because like, there's a lot of people that's, selling their brand on YouTube, and I'm thankful that it only took me, like the second opportunity, the first program I invested in just didn't tell you everything. It just told you enough.
Yep.
But your stuff and just having the access, like I'm actually, finally, like I'm on a Zoom call with Nick, that's dope. So then, because after watching all your videos and doing stuff, on just the access and availability that you have and how quick you are to answer little questions, and like then listen to all the OGs on a Facebook group, some of those guys and gals, they just got, they've been doing this for years, and just to see them answering the questions for everyone else. And what we do is, I think last week I just asked a quick question because I was talking to one of my buddies who's a realtor.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was just asking a question about REO properties.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was just, we were just talking about REOs. And I'm like, hey, can we collect on those? It don't make sense. I don't think we can, but I just went in there real quick and just asked a real stupid question without researching. Can you collect on REOs? And next thing I know, like an hour later, I had, some of the OGs in the group just quit no and told me why. Then it was a chain reaction. Like, that's all I wanted, because, I definitely take pride in researching, but in that moment in time, I just needed a quick yes or no. But you had somebody who was there, who was more knowledgeable than I am, just to, have that ability to get those answers quickly. Yeah. And so you definitely created a good community, man. And just everything that you're doing, man, it works. So, and I believe in your video. And that's another thing that really helped me, which is awesome, just hearing your testimony. Because I think everybody's been there working jobs. I never worked in a prison setting, but I can only imagine the grind of going there every single day. For you, you and your wife just got married, and like I've been there. I work jobs, work my ass off, working crazy hours. So my wife, is just, whatever it is that we have to do is provide us for our family. And hearing your testimony at that time in my life, it's like, man, I can do this.
Yeah.
And like he did it, he was grinding like that, and he found this, that changed his life. Man, it's like, man, that's what I want. It's exactly the story that I think most people who are in your program, want to be able to share. So, yeah. So thank you. Like we really, like seriously, like you changed me and my, you strengthened my relationship with my wife, because finances have always kind of been, ever since we got married, and we just always, I kind of always struggled with these little things. But that extra $30,000 last year was a huge difference in our life, and it was just able to get us our head above water and kind of get us caught up on some like student loan, basic middle American, first world problems. Yes. Just kind of get your head out of consumer debt and pay off some things that you wanted, and just that little glimpse of sovereignty. So now it's like, okay, let me flip my time. Let me work like this is all I have. And, my company, let me slowly take away from them, even if that's, because the ultimate goal is family. Like, my success is to be here, not miss a soccer or tennis practice. I'm not missing anything. Yeah. I have to go to work. I'm done with that.
That's awesome. That's a great, and that's great testimony on your part too. And I'm just grateful to play a small role, but ultimately you did the work, man. It's, all the praise and all the respect should go to you. So thank you for just following through and just doing it, because anyone can. I love it, man. Well, awesome.
Awesome, guys. Hope you liked that interview. Hope you got some good takeaways, some good lessons. Go ahead and post in the comments below what you learned. As always, if you also want to gain access to the same information that Reggie used to get the results he got, there's a link down below to the course, and of course the gold program as well. So those are the two offerings we currently have. And I hope that helped. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.